Libra, it's thrilling. Everyone will be surprised by you. Every time someone compliments you on being balanced, a part of you wants to ask, balanced compared to what? Everyone thinks they already know Libra. Calm, a good way, the one who gets things done. But what if that calmness was never a choice? What if it was just the effect of absorbing other people's noise without anyone asking what's left of you afterward? There's a sound hidden inside Libra that almost no one has heard. When it appears, it's chilling, and by the end of this video, something within you will make sense in a new way. There's something that's happened to you so many times that you've stopped finding it strange. Someone looks at you, breathes more slowly, and says, "Wow, I suddenly felt so much better," and you smile, thank them, and continue the conversation. But you've never asked what, exactly, happened between the two of you in that instant. You always thought it was friendliness, a kind manner, good manners, a social skill you developed without realizing it, like someone learning to ride a bicycle and forgetting that one day they fell. But what if it's not that? What if what comes out of you, when someone approaches you hurt, tense, lost, is not a choice at all? There is a simple forked metal object that, when struck, vibrates at a precise frequency. And the strangest thing is, if you place another object capable of vibrating at the same frequency near it, that second object also begins to vibrate, without anyone touching it. No contact, just proximity. It's kind of creepy when you stop thinking. One thing vibrates, and the other, just by being nearby, vibrates along with it, even without anyone explaining why. Libra works like this, not as a pretty metaphor, but as a mechanism. You enter a tense room and, without doing anything special, the tension drops a degree. You stand near someone broken inside, and that person, inexplicably, breathes more deeply. This isn't conscious kindness, it's resonance, and resonance doesn't ask for permission. The problem is that nobody taught you what to do with it. Nobody told you that every time you absorb someone's broken frequency just to return it more balanced, a part of you ends up vibrating at that borrowed frequency for longer than it should. Have you ever noticed how, after helping someone calm down, you're the one left feeling restless? As if the peace you gave was taken from a supply that was also yours and that no one replenishes. People say Libras seek harmony, but nobody asks what happens to the person who is, themselves, the instrument of harmony for others. What's left for them when everyone else is left feeling lighter? This explains a behavior you've probably experienced but never quite managed to name. That feeling, at the end of a long day surrounded by people, of being exhausted without having physically done anything. Nobody hit you, nobody assaulted you, but you arrive home as if you've carried something heavy all afternoon. And you did. Only it was invisible. There's a curious detail about the tuning fork that few people know. It only sounds loud and clear when struck directly. Otherwise, it remains absolutely silent, even though it's full of the capacity to vibrate. It never sounds on its own. It needs to be touched from the outside to reveal what has been inside it all along. What if this is exactly your story? Not the story of someone who seeks balance for others through a noble choice, but the story of someone who only discovers their own frequency when someone from the outside forces them to vibrate. When someone hurts you, contradicts you, pushes you into a corner, and suddenly a sound emerges from you that you didn't even know existed. People are surprised by you all the time. Surprised by the calm you maintain under pressure. Surprised by the sharp retort that comes out of your mouth just when everyone expected you to break down. Surprised because in their eyes you should have exploded a long time ago, and instead a clean, almost beautiful note came out of the chaos. But you know something they don't. You know that clean slate wasn't born of peace, and what was missing was a name. Nobody taught you what to call it, so you learned to live with a pain without a label, thinking it was just tiredness, just a bad day, just life being tough. But it wasn't just that. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. Doesn't treat Libra as a gentle sign that needs to learn to please more. It starts from the opposite point, that you already restore balance to others all the time, and that the question that really matters is what remains for you when no one is watching. It shows you how to recognize in your own body the difference between the peace you lend and the peace that is genuinely yours, and how to stop confusing one with the other before the price becomes too high. If you've gotten this far and felt a tightness, an uncomfortable recognition, that's no coincidence. It's your body confirming what your mind is still trying to deny. Recognizing the pattern now hurts more than continuing to repeat it automatically. That's why acting while the idea is still alive is worth more than waiting for it to cool down and become just another nice thought you had but didn't use. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. Now I want to ask you something, and I'd really like you to answer it here in the comments. When was the last time you helped someone calm down and deep down knew that the one who really needed calming down was you? Let me tell you something that almost no Libra admits out loud. You can pinpoint the exact second when a room's emotional temperature changes. A joke that falls flat, a silence that lasts a second longer, a glance that wanders too quickly. You sense it before anyone else realizes something has changed, and without consciously deciding, your body is already calculating what to do to rebalance it. This isn't a spiritual gift. It's a detection system you developed so early and used so many times that it became a reflex. Like someone who's been driving for 20 years and no longer thinks about shifting gears. The problem is that the reflex doesn't warn you when it's being activated too much. It just acts, and every time it acts, it consumes energy that you never learn to measure. Some people carry weight on their shoulders. You carry frequency, someone's irritation, another's anxiety, a third's unresolved resentment. All of that passes through you before emerging more organized on the other side. And nobody asks you the price of the translation. They only receive the final version, calmer, clearer, and assume it always existed that way, ready inside you. Herein lies the first unsettling contradiction. The better you are at it, the more invisible the effort becomes. No one praises the tuning fork for the effort of vibrating. They praise the silence that follows. And you have been trained year after year to value precisely the moment when your effort disappears from view, which means you have been trained to erase yourself at the exact instant when you should be most recognized. Now notice something that often goes unnoticed. When you finally explode, when the balance you maintain for others cracks inside you, nobody recognizes it as the culmination of months of invisible effort. They call it loss of control. They call it not seeming like you. As if the whole person who has supported everyone for so long doesn't have the basic right to also falter. This hurts in a specific way, difficult to explain to those who don't live it, the loneliness of being the point of reference for the balance of several people at the same time, without having, yourself, an equivalent point of reference to lean on. You learn to calibrate others because, at some point, no one calibrated you, and what should have been cared for became a task. Pay attention to this because it's important. If you've recognized that invisible weight that no one sees, that nameless exhaustion that comes after organizing other people's chaos, there's a practical way to stop paying that price alone. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose addresses exactly this blind spot for Libra. How to recognize instantly when you're lending too much balance and receiving almost nothing in return. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. But there's one detail that changes everything, and it's about this detail that I want to talk about now, very calmly. The tuning fork that vibrates for others also has its own frequency. It just forgets this because no one has ever hit it on purpose, only grazed it, only accidentally, only when someone needed it most. No one has ever asked, "What is your sound?" When no one is asking for anything, have you ever stopped to imagine this? Not the sound you produce to calm, resolve, mediate, but the sound that would come out of you if, for a second, nobody else in the world needed balance. No discussion to appease, no tension to dissolve. No one in need of a measured word, just you, alone with your own frequency, with no function to fulfill. Most sign language users have never even come close to this question because it's frightening. Not the fear of discovering something bad, but a stranger kind of fear. The fear of discovering that there's a sound there, waiting, and that it's beautiful, powerful, unique, and it was silenced for years simply because there was never enough space for it to play. And here's the paradox that often gives people a real chill when they understand it. You impress everyone precisely because you've never sounded alone. Your balance seems superhuman because it stems from reacting to others' chaos with surgical precision. But no one has ever seen what happens when there's no chaos to react to. No one has ever seen Libra at rest. No one has ever seen Libra sweating alone. Take a second to ponder the question I just asked, because most people shy away from it too quickly. It was precisely this fear, the fear of discovering your own voice after years of only echoing others, that led me to seek more solid answers. And that's how I came across the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. It doesn't teach you how to resonate better with those around you. You already know how to do that with your eyes closed. It gives you back access to your own voice, the one that has been silenced by giving space to the harmony of others. The link is in the first pinned comment. Perhaps the most honest question you can ask yourself right now is this: how many of your decisions in recent years were truly your own, and how many were simply the right note at the right time to keep someone on your side balanced? It's not easy to separate the two after doing both simultaneously for so long. There's a way to tell the difference, and it's simple, almost silly. Pay attention to which decision makes you feel lighter afterward, and which one makes you feel heavier, even though it seems right at the time. Lightness is your true frequency. Weight is the echo of a borrowed frequency, which you've carried for too long thinking it was yours. This doesn't mean ceasing to resonate with people. It means ceasing to confuse resonance with cancellation. A tuning fork can vibrate in response to another and still keep its own note intact beneath the movement. The issue was never about feeling the other. The issue was always about remembering oneself while feeling. If you've ever tried to separate your genuine decisions from those that only exist to keep someone else comfortable, you know how confusing that can be. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose offers a practical way to make exactly that separation, without relying on tired intuition on a day when you've already taken on too much for others. It's about recognizing borrowed burdens before they become routine disguised as personality, and this content may be taken down at any time. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's another side to this story that almost no one talks about, and it's about how this manifests in the closest relationships. People who are close to you often say something similar at some point. "I never know what you really want." And it's not an accusation, it's genuine confusion, because you learned so early on to ask, "What do you prefer?" before asking yourself. Your own preference became increasingly silent until it almost disappeared. This creates a curious effect. The people closest to you end up unintentionally treating your flexibility as if it were a lack of willpower. They decide on the restaurant, the movie, the weekend plans, thinking they are being kind by leaving you out of this small decision, without realizing that in fact you stopped competing for space so long ago that they don't even know there was a possible competition anymore. And here lies another contradiction that often hurts when someone names it aloud. You, who are so good at perceiving what others feel, are frequently the last to perceive what you yourself feel. Not because you lack sensitivity, you have an abundance of sensitivity. You just lack the habit of turning that sensitivity inward with the same intensity that you turn it outward all the time. I'm going to tell you something that might explain this behavior in a way no one has ever explained to you before. Every time you were a child and expressed a strong desire, someone probably reacted badly to it at some point. A conflict that scared them, a tension that became too great for the size of your desire, and your system, still small, learned a simple equation. Self-will generates conflict. Conflict is dangerous, so it's safer to ask what the other person wants and adjust to that. It worked so well for so long that it became part of your personality. But a childhood survival strategy carried into adulthood without revision becomes an elegant prison. Elegant because no one sees the bars. Everyone only sees a flexible, kind, easygoing adult. No one sees the child who learned too early that existing intensely had too high a price to pay alone. Now I want to show you the other side of that same coin, because it's equally real, and nobody talks about it. There's a moment, usually after years of living this way, when Libra's internal scale gets tired of meditating alone and starts doing something that surprises everyone around. It stops. Suddenly, without warning, you say no to something you always said yes to. You choose the restaurant. You disagree in public. You let a tension exist without rushing to resolve it. And the world around you reacts as if you've changed your personality overnight, but you haven't. You've just stopped stifling the note that's always been there, only too quiet for anyone to notice before. It's this instant, small, almost invisible to those on the outside but seismic inside, that usually marks the beginning of a real transformation. Not a performative transformation, but a silent reorganization of internal priorities. The most beautiful detail in all of this is that you don't need to stop being good at resonance to recover your own note. The two things don't compete with each other the way you might imagine. A tuned instrument continues to respond to its surrounding environment, continues to vibrate when something nearby demands a response. The difference is that it knows, clearly, which part of that sound is an echo and which part is its own. This clarity doesn't come from doubting your sensitivity. It comes from organizing it. And perhaps that is the real invitation behind everything that has been said so far. Not to stop feeling the world around us with all that intensity that only Libra possesses, but to stop forgetting that beneath so many borrowed responses, there is an original frequency waiting, with almost stubborn patience for the right moment to sound alone, without asking anyone's permission. This also manifests itself in a very specific way at work, and it's worth pausing for a moment to consider. You've probably been called upon, more than once, to resolve a conflict that wasn't even yours, simply because someone trusted you to find the right words to ease the tension. And you did. You almost always do, but notice, no one asked you beforehand if you had the energy to spare that day to handle yet another person's problem. They assumed you did, because you always handle it well. Over time, this becomes an invisible role within any group you're part of. The unofficial emotional regulator, the one no one names but everyone expects to be available. And, like any invisible role, it never appears in the job description, is never recognized in any evaluation, and exacts a price that only you feel alone after everyone else has gone home feeling lighter. The question that remains, then, is not how to stop being good at it. It is, who takes care of the regulator when the regulator also needs balance? And perhaps that's why people are surprised by you. Not because you're perfect, nor because you never falter, but because even after years of absorbing everyone's noise, there still exists, somewhere inside you, an original, intact note, waiting for the right chance to sound on its own. That's rare. That is, yes, a little chilling, in the best possible way. You don't need to prove your balance to anyone. You're already living proof that you can navigate other people's chaos without shattering completely. But the true beauty of your nature isn't in how much other people's noise you can organize. It's in the sound that only exists when finally someone, or you yourself, decides to touch you on purpose, carefully, just to hear what comes out. And then, yes, the world discovers why Libra has always been able to surprise even those who thought they knew you completely. Perhaps this is the simplest and most beautiful truth about you. It's not the silence that impresses, it's the sound hidden beneath it. And when it finally escapes, no one can pretend anymore that you were just balance. You were, all along, your own note, waiting for the right moment. And the right moment, it seems, has always been now.